did he draw his inspiration from? Well, a mouth full of questions for this grade 9 dropout, who has been dazzling his family and his community members with his ingenuity.
It's just God's kiss. That's all I can say, because before I started this, I dreamt about it. In fact, I told my people I am coming to fabricate something and do not wish to be disturbed. You see this prototype helicopter? I fabricated it at night. I had to wait until everyone had gone to bed.
Well, it might be a tall order for Ibrahim Drame if you single-handedly ask him to design a real helicopter. However, what has actually carried his family members and friends is not only about the prototype helicopter he fabricated, rather it is his innate talent in a job considered to be exclusively meant for the elites.
Strategic planning meeting to oust President Bashar al-Assad. Syrian rebels acquire more weapons in an attempt to hit Damascus and Aleppo once more. It's crying time in the United States as President Barack Obama and Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney try to make last-minute attempts to woo swing states voters. And when we come back, we look at how Ivorian musicians are drawing the curtains at the end of a symbolic reconciliation tour. Welcome back. A consortium of Ivorian musicians have been touring the length and breadth of the country in an attempt to unify people of the various political divide. The symbolic tour was, among other things, meant to restore hope and confidence into the masses after last year's post-election violence. As we hear in this report, many Ivorians are happy about the initiative.
After 2 weeks of concerts across Côte d'Ivoire, the Magic System took to the stage one last time on Saturday in Abidjan. This was the closing performance of the tour for peace and reconciliation.
The musicians came out for peace. When you see the faces of Ivorians, you know that they don't want to suffer anymore. They want to have fun.
Like Ciro, many local artists took turns on the mic. And Ivorian music stars like Alpha Blondy and Tiken John Fakoli were also in the concert. Thousands of people attended to turn the page on post-electoral violence that ravaged the country a year and a half ago.
There are several singers in Côte d'Ivoire who have been singing since the beginning that war is no good. I don't know if they're deaf, but they never understand.
Les Grts were also on the program. This group, which composed the music for Laurent Gbagbo's campaign, fled the country after the fall of the ex-president. They now expect a lot from the country's politicians.
The message that we could send, we have. It's now up to the politicians. That's what I always say. It's now up to the politicians to sit down and to talk.
Despite the difficulties facing the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and the absence of dialogue between the two main political parties, Ivorians were out for a good time on Saturday. They came out to express their desire for change while dancing into the night.
A tight presidential race in what has become an increasingly politically polarized country could be a recipe for a very long night as the votes get tallied. So-called poll watchers from both parties will monitor the vote. CNN's John Jones report critics say some of the watchers need to be watched themselves.
In South Florida and in Cincinnati, Ohio, as early voting comes to a close. And those aren't the only crowds this hotly contested election is attracting.
10,000 grassroots and legal volunteers across the country on Election Day.
Everywhere. They're going to be everywhere. They've trained people in 50 states to legally poll watch.
Lawyers and poll stripes descending on Ohio and across the country in search of any issues that need to be challenged.
We're looking for long lines that might be a result of machines breaking down, poll workers that might be asking the wrong questions, asking for ID when they shouldn't be.
Groups like the left-leaning Election Protection have been training for weeks, so they're ready to respond to any problems at the polls in real time.
With all the changes nationally in the voting laws, I think, we're prepared for there to be a significant amount of confusion on Election Day.
But controversy over how some of the organizations do their job. Poll watching has become a partisan business.
What do you think of the election protection people?
Well, look, they have problems.
Former Justice Department lawyer Christian Adams now represents True the Vote, a Tea Party-affiliated group with a simple goal.
Free and fair elections. True the Vote stands for election integrity. Follow the law, period.
But True the Vote has real critics of their own from the left.
True the Vote has consistently challenged the voting rights of legitimate voters. We must address anybody who tries to deny anybody that right to vote. And I consider it criminal. I can consider it unpatriotic, and I think it is very highly offensive.
A claim Adams does not take lightly.
They're liars. They're bearing false witness against law-abiding citizens who are doing no more than observing the process, and they should be ashamed of themselves.
Whatever the election watchers find, it may ultimately be up to super lawyers like Ted Olson to determine whether to go to court. Olson, a Romney advisor, led Republicans to victory in the Supreme Court battle between George W. Bush and Al Gore in 2000.
I'm clearing my calendar just in case I need to be ready for the next 5 weeks.
He says if elections officials want to avoid litigation, they shouldn't change direction in the middle of the game.
If you follow the rules that were in place on Election Day with respect to counting the ballots, then the presumptive outcome will be respected when the Electoral College votes are counted.
But the truth is there could be other changes to the rules, especially as states affected by the superstorm get ready for the election. Joe John, CNN, Washington.
Syrian rebels say they have been going after warplanes and that they have surrounded a key military airbase. Activists fired rockets at strategic bases located between Aleppo and Damascus. The offensive comes before Monday, opposition strategic meeting. Let's look at this report for more on why the activists are keen on promoting a new image.
As Syria's opposition leaders gather to reorganize and rebrand in the calm of Doha, this is part of a new image their fighters desperately want to show the world. It's a remote-controlled car bomb. No suicide bomber required, they say. This can deliver a carload of explosives to up to a kilometre away. Then there's the missiles, replete with Free Syrian Army logos, filmed by them loaded onto trucks and then aimed using Google Maps. No effort spared to seem able to make something out of the little that rebels often complain they have. This missile is made by the National Freedom Movement in Homs, he says. Its range is 6 kilometers. It's now pointed towards an Assad military checkpoint. We don't know what it hit. The Free Syrian Army have had a PR problem, portrayed as ramshackle, chaotic. These pictures, filmed in the Homs region, are a bid to reverse that problem. They want the world to see they've evolved, even make their own mortars, and are ready for outside help.
It's clear that they want to look like an organized professional force that is already moving ahead in terms of their armed capabilities, in terms of their sophistication, and they want to present themselves as deserving of greater external support.
In Doha, the United States wants more battlefield commanders to join forming a new opposition movement. They will be lucky to get men as organised bearing iPads as these appear to be. A new problem we face, one man says, is a lot of people asked to join the movement, but their conduct may not be suitable with our principles. But the fighters are seen as so fractured, and the political leaders too often bickering in exile, that unity is a distant goal. Washington hoping this Doha meeting will finally succeed, where so many other attempts have failed. Nick Payton-Walsh, CNN, Beirut.
And before we go, a reminder of our headlines. More volunteers turn up for harvesting at President Jammeh's farms in the West Coast region. The community of Lamen has decorated 24 British nationals with honorary citizenship titles for contributing